Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Masterclass. We are going to get started in just a moment. So that you guys are comfortable. This is a class that's dedicated to Easy Language. Easy Language, by the way, is TradeStation's proprietary programming language. It allows you to create custom strategies and custom indicators. So it opens your TradeStation desktop to endless possibilities. So anything that you can think of, like calculations or technical ideas that you want to modify, it doesn't have to be something brand new. You can take something that's built into TradeStation that is known in the industry, like Bollinger Bands, and maybe give it your own spin or modify the Keltner channel, whatever technical idea that you think, oh, this would be better if I do this or that. That type of things can be done with Easy Language. So it does open a lot of possibilities when it comes to modifying technical indicators and strategies. Today, since it's a class dedicated to Easy Language, we're going to do some custom programming. I don't want to scare people off. This is not really that difficult. There's a reason why we call the programming language Easy Language. We just want to make sure that everyone is comfortable with it. And we're going to go through the different steps of building our own custom strategy and our custom indicator, and we go through the different components. But let me just go ahead and pull up. I think my trade station is working fine now. Great. Okay. Let me pull up my PowerPoint. So today we're going to talk about monitoring your trading strategy using custom Easy Language indicators. So we're going to do a combination of both. We're going to use some strategy data, and we're going to use an indicator to capture some of that strategy data to use it in the form of an indicator. It's very interesting. Some of the things that I have learned in Easy Language, I find to be very fascinating in terms of how TradeStation communicates between strategies and indicators and how you can make those work together. So we're going to look at an example that does that precisely. Before I get started, the usual introductions and disclosures. My name is Jesus Nava. I'm the Director of Client Training and Education for TradeStation Securities. For me, it's always a pleasure to come here and talk about TradeStation. And I do appreciate everyone here taking time out of your schedules to be here and learn about our technology. Keep in mind that every symbol and idea that we talk about is for educational purposes only. These are not recommendations of TradeStation. Also, that active trading is not suitable for everyone, and that past historical performance is no guarantee of future results. For additional information on these disclosures, please visit www.tradestation.com/important-information. The link is right here on the PowerPoint slide, and Manolo has also shared that link right there in the chat in case you guys need a little bit more details on the disclosures. As I said before, today we're going to talk about Easy Language and how you can use Easy Language to leverage indicators and strategies. Let me go ahead and make my chat window here a little bit bigger in case you guys have any questions or any comments on the class. The chat is open and it's all yours. So let's make the class interactive. If you have any questions, we can talk about those. All right. All right. So let's first of all talk about some of the reserved words that are in the language that have a particular purpose and a particular meaning. Because the more words you learn, Easy Language words, the easier it'll be to build sentences and build statements inside of the development environment. The easier it'll be to create studies and indicators. So when it comes to strategies, we have a few words that provide particular data. One of those words is the one that appears here in blue. In fact, if you type it up inside of an Easy Language document, it'll automatically turn blue. And the reason why it turns blue is because Easy Language recognizes it and understands exactly what it does. When you type in market position, just like it appears there, no space in between, it's going to return a numeric value and tell you if the strategy that you have on the chart is in a position or not. And it'll be three different numbers. It'll return a +1 if you are in a long trade. It'll be a 0 if you're flat, or it'll be -1 if you are in a short position. Very handy, especially when you're using a strategy to find out what is the strategy doing and what mode is the strategy in. Today we're going to use a built-in strategy. We're not going to design a strategy per se, but we are going to probably write our own exits so that we can see how they work on the TradeStation platform. So market position tells you what the position of the strategy is. You have another word that's called current shares and current contracts. It doesn't matter which one you use. I mean, they're used interchangeably. They both mean the same thing. So if you're a futures trader, current contracts makes more sense. If you are a stock trader, current shares makes more sense in your head. But if you're trading futures and you use current shares, it'll look at the number of contracts. The same vice versa. If you're trading stocks and you use current contracts, it's going to look at the number of shares that are being traded in the strategy. So they can be used either way. Just use the one that makes sense in your head and you'll be fine. But if you have a strategy on a chart, this word will look at the strategy and find out how many shares are being traded or how many contracts are being traded. It'll be an absolute value. Okay, so it won't be negative for short and it won't be positive for long. It'll be absolute. Okay, what tells you if you're long or short is market position. Entry price is another reserved word that you can use. And as the name implies, it's very, self-explanatory. It'll get you the entry price of your most recent position. Of course, you can look at entry price historically, but in this case, if you just use it the way that it appears here, it'll take a look at the entry price of the most current trade, which is what we're going to use today, because I thought that it would be interesting for us to walk through an example of setting exits based on ATR. And in order for you to set those exits, you need to know what price your strategy entered at, okay? You have two reserved words that take a look at your profit. You have open position profit. It returns the current gain or loss for the current open position. That's why it says open position profit. And then you have the net profit, which returns the total dollar amount of all closed trades, both winning and losing. Now, this is pretty cool because net profit is a word you can use to look at a strategy and see how much the strategy has made or lost. So it's a very interesting way of looking at a strategy and gather information from the strategy to know its performance. So let's go ahead and use some of these words in a strategy that we can utilize on our screen. And let's go ahead and get to it. I'm going to come over here to my TradeStation. Let me go ahead and open up a chart. I always set up a chart here on my TradeStation if I'm going to be writing some custom code. And let's go ahead and open this up. This is Microsoft. Let me switch the symbol to Apple for no apparent reason, just because I wanted to change the symbol. And we have Apple here on the screen. And let's load 30 days of historical data. Okay, I'm going to go to studies, add studies. Let's do something based on Bollinger Bands. Okay, this is a built-in study inside of TradeStation. All right, let me come here to the B's for Bollinger. Just a regular Bollinger. I've created several versions of Bollinger. That's why I have so many here. But Bollinger Bands is something that is built in, and you should be able to find it in your TradeStation desktop as well. When I put it in, I'm not going to change the defaults. I'm going to use exactly the Bollinger Band as it comes up, as it comes inside of the TradeStation platform. But I am going to use the strategy that comes supplied with TradeStation too. I'm going to go to Studies, Add Strategy, Bollinger Bands. So let's go here to Bollinger Bands. And I'm going to select them both, the long entry and the short entry. And then I'm just going to click OK. All right, so I don't see many trades happening right now. If you guys notice back here, this is not yesterday, not the day before yesterday or the Friday. This is Friday right here. But on Friday morning, the strategy entered a short trade. I see the red arrow right there. So the strategy maintains that short position until there's a crossover on the bottom side. If we look at the red line right here at the bottom of the Bollinger Band, it hasn't been broken since that morning of, this is Friday morning, we broke the top band Bollinger Band went short. Now it hasn't crossed on the bottom side, so we still have that short trade. Not looking very promising based on the activity this morning. We see that the price is going up, so that's definitely a losing trade. But let's go ahead and take a look at an indicator that is also built into TradeStation, which uses some of those reserved words that we talked about, open position profit and net profit. Let's go ahead and take a look. I'm going to go to studies, add study, and the one that I'm referring to, it's called strategy equity. It's right here. Everybody should have it. If you go to the list of indicators, it's going to be there. And notice how here we start noticing the relationship between indicators and strategies. If you guys remember, we had to add the Bollinger Band study to get the lines. Then we added the strategy, which is another dialogue, but we have the historical trades for the Bollinger Band. But now we're going to use an indicator, but the indicator is called strategy equity. So this is the type of indicator that we're talking about this class. But even though it is an indicator, it actually looks at the strategy and tells you, what the strategy is doing, in terms of performance. If you want to know the number of shares, if you want to know what market position it has, whatever the information is you want to know, you can do that from an indicator as well. Strategy equity, I'm going to click OK. I don't want to format it. And you can see that it plots right there at the bottom of the screen. There's two plots here on this bottom indicator. The red histogram is what we call the net profit. It's the plot that calculates from closed trade to closed trade. And it also has a white line, which is your open P&L. You can see that when we had this short trade in the morning of Friday, you can see that there's a change in the histogram. It went from, a profit. Let me see what the actual profit here was. If I click on hold, I can see the data tips window. And right there at the bottom, you can see that it says closed equity 233. So before Friday, we were positive $233. Once we entered that short trade, and that short trade, of course, was a losing trade. Notice that it connects the long entry to the short entry, and the line here, or the dotted line, is red. So this is a losing trade. So this loss that is happening right here on this particular trade gets applied to the net profit. Since you realize a loss at this point, once we go short, notice how our closed equity is negative 11. But that negative 11 remains the same because we haven't closed that trade. The negative 11 was realized at the moment that we entered that short trade. But in addition to knowing, what our closed profit is, we also have this line showing us our real-time P&L. So at the moment, you can see that it's negative 522. We did point out that the short trade was not looking very promising, especially this morning where they had that big spike in price. And we can see that our P&L this morning went from a negative 200 to a negative 500. And it's not looking very good. But you can see the difference between the two plots. Now, I want you guys to take a look at something. I'm going to right-click on this indicator, and I'm going to go to Edit Easylanguage for Strategy Equity. Okay. And I want you guys to see that it's a very simple piece of code. In fact, it only has 3 lines. And the 3 lines are going to plot a certain value. One value is open equity, and the other is closed equity. The information that you reference in a strategy and the information you reference from an indicator, you may have to use different words. And that's the reason why in the PDF that I haven't shared with everyone here, but in the content or the PDF that I'm going to share with everyone, you see you're going to find 2 pages on that PDF. One page, which gives you the reserved words using a strategy, and another page that gives you all the reserved words you can use in an indicator. So let me go back here to my PowerPoint and show you exactly what I mean by that. We already talked about these, and in the meantime, let me go ahead and try to log in here, because I had the page open and I had to close it just because I was having issues with my TradeStation. Let's see if this logs in. All right. There we go. So I'm going to come here, copy this to the clipboard, and I'm going to share it with everyone here. Okay, the link in the chat is a PDF that has all these reserved words. The ones that you're looking at right now, these are all the ones you would use inside of a strategy. Now we have comparable words that give you similar data. Let me go here to the next slide. For example, for market position, we have I_market position. If you were to use, let me go back here. If you were to use market position inside of an indicator, you would get an error. And we're going to do that right now. We're going to try to use market position inside of an indicator, and you're going to see how the editor is going to tell us, no, you cannot do that. That's a word reserved for strategies. You cannot use it in an indicator. So if you want the indicator version of the same data, this is what we're looking at. I_market position. Again, it looks at the strategy and it tells you what the position is. Is it short? Is it long? Or is it flat? You have I_current shares or I_current contracts. Same concept, gives you number of shares, number of contracts in the strategy. You have I_AVG entry price, a little bit different than what you would use in a strategy. The strategy would use entry price, but it's okay. A lot of times, when our product managers come up with new reserved words in the language, they don't do it at all at the same time. So Easylanguage is a program or a programming language that's been developed, for the last 40 years. You're going to see a lot of variations in the code because there's a lot of teams that have worked on Easylanguage programming. So if you want to know the entry price of the last trade, I_AVG entry price, and then you have I_open equity and I_closed equity. Very similar to what we saw on the strategy side, but on the strategy side, we call it open position profit, and then we have net profit. They both give you the same thing. It's just that we need to remember that if we're using these words in an indicator, we have to make sure to use the I_version. Otherwise, we are going to get an error. Okay, that's all the information that's inside of this PDF. Those 2 pages, one with all the reserved words you would use in a strategy, and the other page with all the words you would use in an indicator. Let me go over here to my trade station. And we were about to look at the Easylanguage. We looked at the Easylanguage code of this strategy equity indicator, and you can see that it uses the I_open equity and the I_closed equity. And then you have a 0 line, of course. Now, the interesting thing is that if I come here to the chart and I remove the strategy, this indicator is feeding from the strategy. If I remove the strategy, what happens? The indicator goes away. You see how it just disappears? I mean, the indicator is there, but I don't see any data because I have no strategy to feed that data into the indicator. So let me go back here and add the strategy one more time. By the way, the profitability of the strategy doesn't really matter here because we're looking at a different thing. We're looking at how to tie in an indicator with a strategy. And as soon as we put in the strategy right here on the chart, we can see how the indicator is able to read off from the data that's provided by the strategy. Okay, so let's go ahead and combine this with an ATR exit strategy, which is what I wanted to show you. I think it'll demonstrate this functionality very nicely. If you go to the list of strategies here inside of TradeStation, you're going to find some ATR strategies. We have an ATR trailing, and we have an ATR target and trail LX. We don't have an ATR plain target and stop, which is the one that I want to create with everyone here in class. So let's go ahead and cancel out of this. I'm going to go to apps, and I'm going to go to Easylanguage. All right, and here, let's close this document. I don't need it anymore. I'm going to go to File, New, and I'm going to create, first of all, the strategy that is going to generate the exits on my Bollinger Band. I don't have to reference the Bollinger Band here. Remember that you can create a strategy that is exclusive to generating exits, like this one we're going to create today. We're just going to create a strategy that looks at any strategy that you have on the chart, and it's going to set up exits based on ATRs that you specify. So it has that flexibility that you can use the strategy on anything or any entry strategy that you may want to. I'm going to call this at MC ATR target stop. Okay. I'm going to click OK. And what I need on this strategy, let me pull up some notes here. One thing that I need here on this strategy is flexibility so that I can change it on the fly. So the first thing is I'm going to think about the inputs that I need. Inputs is a way for you to create this interface that you've probably used on the desktop, when you change the parameters of a moving average, or you want to change the parameters of the Bollinger Band. Those are inputs. And when you code Easylanguage, you have to make sure that you have this flexibility or this interface where you can change those parameters on the fly. One of those parameters is going to be the ATR length. We're going to initialize that to 10. What does that mean? This is the number of bars or number of periods that are going to be used in the average true range calculation. And then we're going to have a target ATR, which we're going to set to 5 to start off with. And we have a stop ATR where we're going to set to 2. Okay. So what's the idea here? We are going to default the number of ATRs that are going to be used for the target and the number of ATRs for the stop. If you're not familiar with ATR, ATR stands for average true range, and it looks at how big the bars are getting from the high price to the low price. So there's a distance between high and low, which is used in the calculation of ATR. It averages, how big the bars are, and then we're going to use these numbers, the 5 and the 2, as a multiplication factor. Once it finds an average size of the bar, we use a multiplication factor to set, our targets and our stops, which could be a little bit more realistic than, setting up a specific price, because you're setting your exits on the security's own historical price movement. So if the security that I'm trading has moved a certain amount in the past, it's likely that it'll hit my stop and my target. If I'm setting the stop and my target based on that ATR, it uses the historical price movements to set those levels. So it just becomes a little bit more expected to be hit. All right. So those are the 3 things that I think for now. I mean, you can always come back and modify this if you need to, but for now, those are the 3 things that I think you would want to have this flexibility to set up. All right. And my variables are going to be calculations that I have to perform inside my code. And I declare variables because these are quick ways for me to reference those values without having to write up the whole formula for those calculations. The variables that I'm going to calculate today are target price and stop price. Those are calculated values, and I don't want to carry that formula every time I need to calculate it. And that's a reason why we're declaring them as variables. Once you declare variables, then you have to declare them. I mean, you have to assign them. What is my target price? And what is my stop price? How is that calculated? Now, one thing that I want everybody to think about is my target and my stop, depending on what type of position I'm holding, whether I'm long or short, those 2 prices, the target and the stop, are going to be inversed. Let me clarify. If you are in a long trade, your target is always going to be above. It's a profit target for a long trade. But if you are in a short trade, your target is going to be below your entry price. So when it comes to calculating target price and stop price, we have to think about what position my strategy is in. If you're in a long trade, okay, then I know how to calculate my target and my stop. But if you're in a short trade, then I may have to invert that calculation to make sure that my target is at the bottom. So I'm gonna, before I declare, what my target price and my stop price are, I'm going to make sure that I'm in the right mode. I'm bullish or bearish. So if, remember this, market position. Notice market position turned blue when you type it in inside the code. If market position equals 1, then begin. As simple as that. First of all, make sure that you are in a long trade and then calculate my target price and my stop price. My target price, take the entry price. That's one of the words we saw in that PDF that I shared with everyone. So we have our entry price plus, and this is where we bring in the average true range calculation. Average true range. So that's not a real word. You can test certain words in Easylanguage by typing them in, and if they don't turn a particular colors, because Easylanguage doesn't recognize it. So in this case, I typed in average true range and it didn't recognize it. And I think it's because average, it's abbreviated. There we go. So AVG true range. Notice now it turns magenta or purple, because now it's a function that I'm referencing here. This is a built-in function, and TradeStation has hundreds of different functions you can use. If you're interested in knowing where those functions are, just come over here to the right. There's a dictionary. Open up the Easylanguage section with the category here for Easylanguage, and at the very end, you're going to see the user functions. You click it, you make this smaller, and you see all the functions that are part of the development environment. So yeah, come here and explore. Here's average true range, the one that I'm using. And notice that we need a parameter, average true range, and parentheses, we need to tell it how many periods to use in the average. So for that, we have this word right here, an input, because we want some flexibility. So we want average true range for the average length times my target ATR. So I'm just going to add the input word here. Does that make sense? So what I want is, the order of operations here is going to take care of the multiplication first, and then add it to the entry price. But just to be sure, one thing that I like to do is probably add another set of parentheses here. And visually, sometimes I like to have this so that I know that this is taken care of first before adding it to the entry price. And I think I have one too many sets of parentheses. So let's go ahead and kill this one. Okay, I think that's what we need. So everything that is inside parentheses gets added to the entry price. All right, so at the very end of this line, we add a semicolon. So we just defined what the target price was going to be. Let's go ahead and copy all this and paste it here, because it's going to be very similar. The only difference here is that instead of adding, we are subtracting. And instead of using the target ATR, we're going to use stop ATR. Very simple. So once you get the first definition, everything else is pretty easy to do. So now that we have our target and stop price in place, then we can set our order actions. Sell next bar at target price, limit. Target price is one word. Okay, and the other one is sell next bar at stop price, stop. So we're using target price and stop price as our limit and our stop prices for the orders. This is the calculated value based on ATR. And then at the very end, we type in the word end. Every statement inside of Easylanguage ends with a semicolon, just to create some separation. And anytime you have a begin, you must have an end. Let me verify this and make sure that I'm in line and everything makes sense to Easylanguage at least. One thing that Easylanguage verification doesn't catch, it's probably mathematical errors because it's just a formula and it'll execute the formula. But if you do the formula wrong, Easylanguage will not catch that. So make sure that you are thinking the process through and double checking where the target and stops are placed so that it just that it's working properly. So this is when market position equals 1. I'm going to copy this whole section. This is an if then begin kind of block. This is my block from begin to end. I'm going to copy all that and I'm going to paste it again a second time. Let's see how much time we have left. Okay, we have some time left because I want to jump to an indicator that shows you some of these targets and stops displayed on the screen. So market position. So if the first block was if I have a long position. The second block is going to be if I have a short position. So I want market position to be equal to -1. Remember that 1 is long, 0 is flat, -1 is short. So if I'm in a short trade, my target price is going to be my entry price minus. This is where we make that difference because now we are in a short trade and our target is going to be below. We're still using target ATR, but I want to make sure that we are subtracting that from the entry price. And the stop price, of course, is going to be a plus here because our stop is going to be above the entry price since we are in a short trade. What else do we do here? Well, now it's not just a selling transaction, but it's a buy to cover because we're covering the short trade. Buy to cover. And let's verify this. Any questions so far? I think everybody follows me. I'm gonna, at the end of the class, I'm gonna export this strategy along with the indicators that everybody has it, and you can download it here from the chat, okay? Let's go ahead and take a look at how the strategy works on the chart. So let me come over here to my trade station. I'm gonna use the same Bollinger Band. Hopefully, this long trade that is making us lose money, it'll be changed once we have our targets and our stops in place. Let's go to studies, add strategy. I'm going to come here to add MC. Okay, that's going to be towards the top because we used a special character. This is ATR, target and stop. I'm going to click OK. And here we go. Let's take a look here. So that Friday morning trade where the Bollinger Band decided to go short, now that trade is covered right here. It seemed to hit that stop right there. And then it went short again. So it seems like, the strategy is kind of going short on this little uptrend and is, generating all these losses, which, that's a different story. That's just the Bollinger Band reacting. We're not going to fix that. But the nice thing here is that we are getting the strategy to exit based on an ATR. So all our stops are being hit right where we see them. So maybe we need another filtering mechanism here so that if there's some upward momentum, it doesn't take any of the short trades. So that's something that we can build into the strategy. You can see that having those exits made the strategy. We're not losing, the 500 where we're losing before, but we're losing, 293. We're still losing money. But the idea here is that we created a strategy that now we can use on any entry strategy. You can combine this ATR strategy with any entry strategy you create. One of the things that I wanted to show you, though, is in this example, let me remove the strategy equity indicator so we can see more space here. What I wanted to do, and this is like the main reason why we have this class, is I want to be able to visualize where the stops and targets are on my screen. Right now I don't see that where my strategy is targeting that stop and target. Right now we don't have an open position, so we won't see anything here currently because it would only plot if you have an open position. But I want to see those targets and stops as lines or little points on the screen. let me come over here to my development environment. I'm not going to type all this up again. I'm going to copy all my code for my strategy, right click, copy, and then I'm going to come over here and create an indicator. An indicator that is going to be called @MC ATR target stop. The same as the strategy, but it's an indicator. So I'm going to be able to create it. It's not going to go in radar screen because I want this to, although, yeah, let's go ahead and enable and leave radar screen on. It may be interesting to see what radar screen plots. I'm going to click OK. And I'm just going to paste the code in here. All right. Jennifer is asking about time right here in the chat. Very interesting question. Yes, Easylanguage does allow you to reference time. Not something we want to, or we can, show you here in this example, but I would recommend you search the Easylanguage library of videos, presentations. I believe there's one on time. We can go there towards the end of the class. So I just pasted the code here into an indicator. And notice that if I try to verify, the first thing that it highlights that like it doesn't recognize is market position. Why? Because what we talked about before. You guys remember what we talked about in the PDF, that we have one word for strategies and another word for indicators? This is a word for a strategy. So the only way that we can make it work for an indicator is if we add an I and an underscore. I, market position. Now, if I verify again, it'll go to entry price, because again, entry price is part of that, strategy list of words. See, entry price. For an indicator, we have to use average entry price. I'm going to come over here. So it's going to be I underscore AVG entry price. And now I know that I need to copy this and replace entry price here, replace here, replace here. Oh, I market position also replaces here. Let's verify. Now the next word is sell. Again, we cannot use the word sell inside of an indicator. What is it that we're trying to do here? We're trying to plot our lines. So these two lines are going to come off. And what I need here is plot one, target price, target. And plot two, stop price, stop. You see what's happening? Instead of generating orders, what we're doing here is plotting. And I'm adding a label so that I know which one is which. Okay, I'm going to do something similar here at the bottom. I'm going to remove those by the covers because they're going to get, flagged by the verification. And I'm plotting. So if I'm in a position, long or short, I'm plotting the calculated target price and stop price. Let's verify this. Okay, now verification is successful. I'm going to export these two, documents that we created, the strategy and the indicator, so that everyone has it and you can practice at home if you want to. So right here, I'm going to do something additional. I'm going to right click and go to properties because we're running out of time. And I want to make sure that I address any questions that anybody has. But here, I'm going to change the style for the target and the stop. Notice that we have lines. We have what I want this to show me is the little cross. Let me set them to line, and you're going to see why is it that I'm choosing a cross instead. I'm going to make the lines a little bit thicker. All right, and for the chart color, let's make these a little bit, the target, I'll make it cyan, and the stop, I'll make it some magenta color, okay? So that we have those two colors clear on the screen. And for scaling, I want those to be on the indicator. I want the indicator to be right on the symbol. So same axis as underlying data. I'm going to click OK and then verify one more time. The properties, the setting up of properties is important because that's where you tell TradeStation what is it that you want your indicator to look like in terms of color, styles, by default, if you don't change the scaling, all new indicators are designed to go in a separate subgraph. But this type of indicator that I want to plot some ATR calculated levels, I want that to be on top of the bars so that I can see my levels in reference to the market activity. So let me go over here to my trade station and see what this indicator looks like. I'm going to go to studies, add study, and the name of the study is add MC ATR target and stop. I'm going to click OK. All right. This is what it looks like. So you have a magenta line at the top, and then you have a cyan line at the bottom. I should have picked a different color than the Bollinger Band because now they're conflicting, but it's okay. Let me go ahead and explain what's going on here. And one weird thing that is happening is once a strategy exits, like over here, we have a cover. It's a white arrow, so we are out of the trade. It doesn't calculate the ATR. You can see how this is a straight line until you have a new trade. Remember that in our code, the only way that our target and our stops are calculated is if you are on a long or a short trade. If market position is 1 or -1. When it's flat, when it's 0, there's no calculation going on. So you have this weird looking diagonal lines, straight lines that mean nothing. And that's the reason why for an indicator like this, sometimes I do not like to choose lines, because a line is just going to connect value to value and give you these a weird sense. I'm going to double click on the indicator right here within the TradeStation desktop. I'm going to go to the style, and instead of using a line, I'm going to go to the target and choose a cross. Maybe choose a thicker cross. You're going to see how cool that looks. I'm going to go to the default. Clicking default here sends those changes over to my properties, or the properties of the indicator. So you can change those settings either on the Easylanguage development environment, or you can do it here in the front end in the customize indicator dialog. And now take a look at what the indicator looks like. Now I don't have those connected diagonal lines from one trade to the next, because now it only plots if there's a calculated value. Now you can see that we had an exit just a few bars ago, and that's why we don't have a current ATR or stop level. But this is exactly what happened on those calculated values. As you can see, earlier today, we had a short trade. At that time, we had a stop, which is calculated at 2 ATR, and we had a target calculated at 5 ATRs. And you can see what those values are bar to bar. Until, notice how it hit our ATR calculated value right there, and it exited our trade. So it is doing what we expected it to do. Now it's just a matter of refining our strategy, whether we want to use a 2 for a stop and a 5 for a target. I mean, that's something that you can figure out and, decide what works best for your strategy. But this is the way that you use an indicator to look at a strategy and put those values on your screen so that they make sense. Let me turn this into a daily chart. All right, a daily chart, you can see that it automatically recalculates. The most recent trade was this long trade that happened. This is August 11th. Since August 11th, we've been on this long trade. Now, Apple, since August 11th, hasn't had that much movement. You can see that it's moving kind of sideways between this 175 and this 180. It was not until today that it actually, it's moving a little bit higher than 180 at 183. But you can see that the current price is right in the middle of your target and your stop. You get that additional visual of where the target and the stop is. So you're not caught by surprise. You know exactly what to expect. And it also allows you to make any adjustments if you have to. Now, if you've waited here for a long time for this position to hit a profit target or a stop loss, maybe you want to interject and make a decision yourself. But those are the type of things you find by displaying strategy information right on the chart. Okay. So Irma is asking, is this applicable for a day trader? For sure. This is a daily chart. So it takes days for a particular trade to go in and out because the calculated interval is a daily bar. But if you switch this to a 1 minute, for example, this is a 1 minute chart of Apple, and you can see several trades that have happened since the beginning of the day. At the very beginning of the day, we had a long trade that was profitable. Notice how it hit our target right here, and we have that dotted line showing us that is a profitable trade. After that, not a very nice sight. We have 1 losing trade, 2 losing trades, 3 losing trades, 4 losing trades. Right now, there's no open position, so you can see that our target and our stops are not being calculated or plotted on the chart. But yeah, it certainly works intraday. That is determined, or that is controlled by the interval of the chart, not by this strategy. Sylvester is asking, how would I initiate a trade on an equity option based on conditions of the underlying stock? It's interesting that you asked that, Sylvester, because there are ways in which you can programmatically, look for options to trade based on what the underlying is doing. It's not easy. It's not something easy to do because of the number of options out there in the options world. You have options for options, so there's so many different strikes and so many different expirations when you go to an option chain that it's really difficult to load all that information into a chart. Like, for example, here I'm looking at Apple. I would have to reference, calls and puts for Apple at a particular moment and know which ones I wanted to trade. So there are some technicalities and some limitations you have to be aware of. What I would recommend is that if you're monitoring an underline on a particular technical idea, that you have that idea generate signals that you can put into options yourself. Maybe go to Option Station Pro and put in the trades there. If you want to use strategies, it's going to be a little bit more complex. All right. All right. So I think that's it. Let me go ahead and export these 2 indicators and strategies. I'll show you the process too. This way, you know how to export and import custom code. If you want to share code with a colleague, or you want to post it inside of the TradeStation forums, all that you can do. Let me go to here to the file menu. By the way, the import and export wizard can be accessed from within the desktop, or you can also access it from the development environment. I'm going to go to File, Import, Export, Easylanguage. I'm going to export. I don't want to do it protected because protected encrypts the code, and not even the creator can open up the code once it's been protected. So only use protected if you want to share some code with someone and you don't want that person to have access to your intellectual property. Then you can protect it because it'll encrypt it and nobody can open it. So most of the time when I export code, I just do it, regular, not protected, so that I don't have that issue that I don't see the code, what's happening, So export Easylanguage document file. All right, that's gonna load all the indicators and strategies for me. Let me look for the indicator that I created first. So that's gonna be at MC ATR target and stop. I click on this little single arrow. If you click on the double arrow, it'll try to move everything over. I just need that one. And on the strategy category, I'm going to go to at MC ATR. So now I have the strategy and I have the indicator here. Let's click next. I'm going to call this ATR target stop. Finish. And they're gone. So now if I go to my Windows Explorer, those files are going to be in the export folder inside of TradeStation. Where is it? You go to your documents. TradeStation is saving into your documents folder. You go to the TradeStation 10 folder and you open up exports. That's where you find it. For me, I have to zip this indicator And then what I'm going to do is drop it inside of our media folder so that I can share with everyone. So just give me a moment. All right, and we have the link. So let me go ahead and do everyone. Paste. And here we go. So the zip folder that you have right there in the chat contains the two indicators that I just exported, the ones that we wrote in class. So if you would rather, type it up yourself, I think that also becomes more of a learning experience. So that's what I would recommend. But if you want to use the one that I just shared with everyone here, you're also welcome to do that and import it right into your TradeStation. The way that you have to open up that file, the zip file, copy the contents and put them somewhere in your computer, like your documents, somewhere that it's going to be safe. And then once you save it to your hard drive, you can just double click on that ELD file and it should open up the import wizard inside of your TradeStation. So make sure that your TradeStation platform is also open, okay? Nice, I think that's it. I don't see any more questions here in the chat, so I'm gonna think that everything went well. Let's see, another question from Gord. When I close a workspace and want to delete it, a lot of times it says that it's still open and will not delete. Not sure what could be happening, Gord. You may have to get the help from technical support on that. If you close a workspace and then you go over to delete it, it should allow you to delete it because it's closed, but I'm not sure what could be happening. Thank you, Rich. Thank you everyone for being here. For any questions, make sure that you just email us, education@tradestation.com. You also find support if you go to and talk to a technical support representative. But this is our Easy Language series where we teach you how to do some minor modifications on programming to create custom indicators and strategies. So thank you guys for your support, and I hope to see you in a future class. Have a wonderful afternoon. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.